I really just want to let it continue going until we're just done with it. And maybe the next couple shows I'll do that.
Is it just me, or does that sound better today for some reason?
Sounds
It does.
better.
I don't know why, but it just sounded better. It's like somebody EQ'd something differently today. Which one of you did that?
Well, it's coming from mine. Last
Yeah.
week's Jason. Oh,
I like how Jason points the other way.
yeah.
Pointing.
Yep.
You can always tell which system runs which.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I don't have the artistic talent that Jason has, as he's putting up on Facebook as of late.
That's very, very true. Very
yeah.
true.
At one point,
you don't have a lot of the same talent that you don't have talent.
Can't grow a beard.
Jason has, yeah. No.
Can't naturally shave. Just have a bald head.
No.
And can't do art.
Yeah.
So.
And your ass is nowhere near as impressive as mine.
Oh no, that's untrue, and you know that because.
Please.
We won't get into that.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't want to get into that. No one wants to get into that. Let's not get into that. Let's just move past that.
I would think there would be some people that would want to.
Yeah, there's some people who want to get into that. I'm just saying.
Well,
I beg to differ, my friend.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Jason!
Either they signed up for it, whatever it was willing, and none of the people here are willing to get involved in that. So let's
got some old flicker stick, chloroform, the one that you love.
Well, oh wow, dude!
Wow.
Flicker stick, holy
nice.
Gosh, man!
Wow,
that is some Bronco Bowl pulling bullshit right there.
You got it, man.
I can't.
Yes, it is.
Everything, man. Jason,
wow.
Not a thin. Buddy.
I'm still stunned by the flicker stick. Reference. Okay, so again, welcome to Vagabond Nerds, brought to you by Jeremy over at Titan Comics. Go, all the stuff's in the doobly-doo below. Please go visit him either digitally or IRL, as the kids say. He's our favorite comic monger and purveyor of all the finest geeky accoutrements. So real quick, I do like
okay
our
today,
opening.
buddy?
Which one?
You?
Which buddy?
Gnome King.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, you just kind of, your openings are usually, it's very much, Sunday, coming down soon, and today you're.
Would you like me to do that? I was trying something a little different. I mean, you always bitch about it. You interrupt me halfway through every time, so I was just.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I just, like giving you a hard time, but I kind of missed it today. But go ahead, man. I'm sorry. Continue. Right. Sounds like I'm done with the show already.
Exactly.
Yeah, I left the whiskey bottle, so I'm very upset.
Is it right next to your broadband? That's slowing down today.
Is it still slowing down today?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, every 30 seconds it seems to turn into a Godzilla movie.
It's weird. I have full bars, and I'm seeing both of you slow down over there. I don't know what's going on.
Good morning, Genesis. That was fantastic.
Anyway,
found out it wasn't real.
Anyway, so yeah, to Sean's point, the song did sound good. It's honestly one of the, in my opinion, my humble Bigfoot opinion, it's I think our theme song's as good as Peacemaker, just with less Space Invaders dancing.
Jason, I can't take that as a compliment coming from you because I know how much you don't like Peacemaker,
and I know how much you don't, know music.
Hold on, no. I like the song. I even said that's one of my favorite parts. I'm gonna ride Peacemaker out because it's the last couple episodes did come back.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've always said the best part of it was the music, straight up. I mean, that's the best aspect of the show.
The 80s rock is, and deep cut rock, not just like cookie cutter on the radio, everything you always heard. Top 100, not that shit.
Except for Wigwam being done in 2010, I think was their first release.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it's glam rock.
It's glam rock, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see what is it? Like, even if they throw on, I actually think it would be kind of funny if they threw on some Steel Panther. I don't know if they're going to put that in there, but if they did Steel Panther, I think that would be funny as well. Because those guys are still around, right? I mean, because they started 2000s ish, didn't they? The Steel Panther guys.
I think so.
And they started doing Yeah, they started doing the 80s glam rock stuff, all with the teased hair and Poison-esque sort of look. Yeah.
Poison-esque. That's
Poison-esque.
gonna be a new thing.
That's a word.
Poison-esque.
It is.
I'm with it. Yeah.
Just like I learned that productivitable is a word as well.
Wait, what?
Productivitable.
Okay, what does that mean?
Productivity, like productivity and
Yeah.
productable. It's productivitable.
Meaning that this
look
could
it up,
be,
dude. I'm not gonna.
Meaning that this could be classified into something that could be productivable.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. I'm not going to tell you everything. Like, I want you to go explore and learn.
I may not know how to say or make words.
My true calling was to be a teacher or a counselor. So you know, I'll give you pieces of information, and then I expect you to go out and explore on your own.
Jason was to be a counselor as well, but the rates weren't good. That's all I'm going to say.
This up and down
productivitable.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so while Jason's looking that up, why don't we start with Pattinson?
Okay, hold on.
I'm not seeing it.
No, it's a word. It's a word. I said it. It's a word.
How do you spell it?
Jason, we're not spending time on this. Come on.
Figure out on your own. Oh. Robert Pattinson. Yeah, I read a quote from him the other day.
Shoot.
Just want to throw that out there. Robert Pattinson on Batman films.
Here we Quotes.
Go. None of them are bad movies. People kind of shit on some of them, but they're not actually bad. They all kind of completely achieve what they set out to achieve, and they're all really interesting according to their time and place. That's Robert Pattinson's take on all the Batman films.
I think obviously the immediate jump on that is going to be Batman and Robin, but to his
absolutely,
but
to his statement,
his point, yeah,
that's not wrong. It's just because everyone, even Batman and Robin's place was as Sean drops off completely due to his connectivity.
Yeah, he's like, I did my Pattinson quote. I'm out.
He's like, yeah. Quote out. Yeah. But I don't think that's a wrong statement to sit there and say, because without Batman and Robin, we don't get the Chris Nolan trilogy, and that's been stipulated multiple times before that.
Right, but I don't think that's what he meant.
But I think it kind of is, because even then, I know what you're saying. You're saying that he was trying to point out the fact that at the time, hey Sean, at the time it was what it was. But let's be honest. I mean, Batman and Robin was
commercially successful.
Yeah, it was to that point was the highest grossing Batman. And do not get me wrong. I mean, it was horrible. As A&X Gamecast and Genesis would see it was trash. But I mean, it's not a wrong statement to sit there and say that for that time frame that they had, they all had their purpose. We just didn't like some of the purposes, you know.
Right. I mean, in that statement, he is very he's very much like what we say around here, which is pretty careful. He's very, very careful about how he says it, what he qualified it as. These movies for their time, when they were achieved what they were supposed to achieve, like that whole thing. He's very particular about his choice of words. So I mean, you're right. He can't really be wrong with his statement, because he never backs himself into a corner with it. Yeah. He's got outs at every turn.
Right, and I think to your point, I think the best part of that, or the most obvious aspect of it, is that they achieved what they set out to achieve. And with like Joel Schumacher, right? Mm-hmm. It's because again, that's really where everyone jumps to is Batman and Robin. I think you can even argue Batman Forever to a point. Yeah, it's that Joel Schumacher was going for the Adam it was his version of the Adam West period sort of Batman.
Right, that's what was period to choose from at that time.
Yeah. I mean, it's true that when he really, especially in Batman and Robin, but I think when he got on board, it really did all of a sudden become more focused on what period was that? The 60s?
Yeah.
Was that 60s Batman, right? That was the 60s.
Right, yeah.
So it definitely
66.
it definitely harkened back to that 60s era television show. And you could see all the campiness in it and the colors and everything coming out. I think Batman Forever was a much better balance if you're comparing comparing that sort of campiness, that amount of campiness, along with some of the more serious nature, right?
It balanced that stretch from Burton to something new.
Yes, it did.
It was very close, and you know, when you go back, especially now as Michael Keaton is gearing up for the Flash, and he's talking a lot of stuff between Batman Returns and Batman Forever. Like he said, he goes, "That's not how we wanted to go. We did want to touch on Two-Face, but it was our version of Two-Face, and it wasn't going to be this you know, cheese factor that it did have, right? You know, and they were wanting to touch on the whole Robin aspect and everything else, but." And yeah, Genesis, it does include Batman and Superman. And a lot of people do have grief on that one. But I would say that again, what we're finding out with anything that Snyder did, the uncut versions or the director cuts, whatever it may be, it does tell a more cohesive story. And it's the same can be true with the Batman vs. Superman Extended Edition. It's a much more complete film. So, but
what I found interesting. Yeah, no, it's definitely not a wrong statement. And particularly, again, I just found that, you know, they set out what they did what they set out to achieve, and it's like, yeah, he's and again, to that point, I think it's a very astute observation. It's easy to sit there and take a dump on Batman and Robin. We've done it plenty of times, but
we've taken dumps on lots of good stuff, and lots of bad stuff,
and lots of bad stuff. Yeah, it just, again, they did what he's absolutely right. What I found really interesting is I just discovered there was a much darker version of Batman Forever.
Yeah, the Schumacher cut, which everyone swears, once again, just like Snyder, everyone swears is in existence, and it's a 3.5 hour movie is what they were saying. But it did have a lot more had a lot more of that Returns feel, offset by the campiness that he combined both of them. But they just left out a lot of the psychological aspects.
Well, they had to balance it. They had to make it more. They had to make it more of a movie that people are going to digest and follow along. And if you put too many elements of one of the, I mean, you know, if you lean into camp and you go with the camp, then you're fine. If you try to balance it, you can't. You can't be too dark and you can't be too campy if you're trying to make that balance. Batman and Robin was full on lean on into campy bullshit. Whereas Forever was, you know, again, it was walking that line. And
I think he walked it actually pretty okay. It just, like you said, Batman and Robin I think Batman and Robin retroactively tarnishes Forever a little bit. But yeah, I think Pattinson has a very diplomatically stated statement.
Thanks, ANX. That Genesis, that's great, man.
Yeah, Genesis nailed that. It just depends, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. You know, the other day I was going back and, you know, kind of briefly looking at Affleck's Daredevil. It's not horrible. It's not, you know, and when it came out, I was very satisfied by the product. Loved it. But then you compare it against Netflix's Daredevil, and it's night and day, man. Like, it's just like, oh, good lord,
yeah, you can't do that. And if I saw the director's cut, you're right. That's a much better version.
Yeah, the director's cut of Daredevil was a more complete movie as well.
Interesting. I think I watched it once. I don't even think I saw that in the theater. But that was during the period of time when I was just like, really, come on, Ben Affleck's going to be a superhero. Now I'm like, man, I'd love to see Ben Affleck in the Batsuit more. But I mean, obviously, I guess what he's doing, he's only done this one piece for the Flash, and then he's done, right?
Well, apparently it's a pretty big. It's ironic.
I mean, it's supposed to be a big part, but
there was a meme or something I saw on it. said, breaking news report: Flash apparently in new Batman movie called The Flash.
Flash, a new Batman movie called The Flash. So it's every Spider-Man that we've ever gotten. So far.
Which I'll tell you, love. Again, I know we've talked about our love for No Way Home, but the more and more I'm thinking about it, the more and more time that I've gone Hispanic Batman. We're getting Batgirl, man. Shut up.
We could totally do that on one of these new iPhones, and I know one of these two. Somebody's got it. I think he's got it. So
and if I break the $2,000 mark with that film, then it was a complete goal. It was a success.
We can call it Batman Well. Yeah.
Batman Well. Batwan. I think that's one of the things on YouTube right now.
Batwan. I like that.
But again, it just goes back to of course, there's always going to be stuff that you could do better, stuff that you could do worse. So we kind of wait and see and hope for the best, But I do have this Flash movie. It better have a lot more Flash than everybody else, and so far, it doesn't seem like you got Supergirl coming. You got 2 different Batman and potentially a Cavill. If some of the rumors are to be believed. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff, and I'm like, what's Flash showing up in this Flash movie?
Yeah, that seems kind of strange. Yeah, and I mean, are they also? They're supposed to have multiple Flash as well, right? It's not.
It's supposed to be for sure at least 2. Barry Allen's.
And what's his face is playing both of them. The one from
Ezra Miller.
Ezra's playing.
He's gonna be playing both of them.
Yeah.
With rumor that we will finally get that big screen crossover from Grant Gustin and his Flash. I mean, there's just again, I appreciate it, but you're gonna have to. No Way Home set that bar high for bringing in multiples of the same character, multi dimension and everything else. Even though technically DC beat it to them, got there first. They got there first, and so I am going to be curious to see how they do
with the TV series crossover piece, right?
Yeah, for sure. So
I did find it kind of funny that Marvel got the multiverse in the theaters before DC, because wasn't the
twice
wasn't DC isn't DC more or less known for reaching to that multiverse or pulling out that multiverse before Marvel ever did?
Every 5 to 10 years, DC will do something with the multiverse.
Yeah, they're way more. The multiverse is way more prevalent in DC. So I'm just fascinated that Marvel got to it first.
Yeah.
No,
I would think so.
Well, it's yes and no comment. I mean, you're not wrong, because a lot of it started back in like the 60s with the Crisis on 2 Earths, right? With the Flash. Yeah. So that's how they started retconning. So you're right. For a long period, DC really leaned heavily into it. In a more modern sense, though, Marvel leans almost more heavily onto it. But to Ray's point, every 5 to 10 years, there's some kind of a thing that causes them to restructure everything. In fact, at this point, it's every year now, because we had the Doomsday clock that explained how everything worked, and they have a new one where they completely explain why characters are the way they are. I mean, but DC can't even figure it out. You can't figure themselves out anymore.
I don't even think it's that, man. Because again, I go back to DC's putting out better written quality material than what Marvel is, and it's not even close. It's by a long shot. And if I really want to get technical, it's the independents that are putting out the best written comic book stuff right now, hands down. It's not even close. And you can see that they got the talent going on there. Independent everywhere from Image and the APs of the world, all the way to self-published stuff. I mean, I've got books right now that are hardcover that were absolutely crowdsourced to be put out, and they've only got a limited set, and it's some of the best stuff I've read in, I dare say a decade, but it's been a long time. So it's sad, but Marvel, you can tell they've got their stuff out because they got to keep churning over IP for Disney, right? But it's not great, and it's hit and miss all the time. Whereas in DC, they are maybe not in the past year, But over the last 10 years, their stories have been much more character driven, and it's much like their movies division. They are letting whoever's writing or quote unquote directing or whatever, they want them to just tell the story. We don't care how it is. That's why we get, the Joker with what's his name, and it's great because they just said, yeah, we don't care. That's why we're getting this new Batman film. Yeah, don't connect it, do your own thing. Yeah. And I think that's very important to how it's going to continue in the future, because you've got the MCU who, one might say this is even bleeding over into the Star Wars stuff, but everything's got to be connected. No, man, just don't do that. It doesn't have to be done. And again, that's one of the best things about No Way Home that I loved, was the fact that they cut all those ties by the end of that movie.
Yeah, they did. Everything for Spider-Man is just. I mean, you can still throw him in other things, and people are going to be like, "Oh my God, Spider-Man!" You know what I mean? When he's in these, but no one's going to know it's Peter Parker.
Yep.
And he has no more ties to anybody, so it's he's alone, but he's still Spider-Man, and he's still going to be in all the movies. So it's like it actually has more feeling as a result of that, because of that giant loss that he experienced, and the whole universe actually experienced.
Yeah,
because no one knows who Peter Parker is anymore.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Certainly was a loss of identity. 100%.
Because I mean, just state. Shit, I didn't consider it when I was thinking about it, but that's going to go all the way out to Guardians and everybody in the galaxy. Thor and everybody who's just out there. No one knows who he is anymore.
He's going to have to rebuild that trust with all of those heroes that had met him before.
Yeah. So and he doesn't have Tony to usher him into it, because Tony believed in him from the get-go and brought him into the fold to start his relationship with these things. Now he's got to prove himself.
Well, it kind of puts him back to where where Spider-Man was always
where he always was
supposed to be. Yeah,
with the tiny little apartment, doing college on his own, no scholarship.
Well, and the other again, that's why he'd go to NYU, and that's why the other heroes would look at him sideways. Which means if we do get the Fantastic Four, we could have that scene where he tries to join up with them. The famous Spider-Man #1 cover where he's in the dome.
I hope we Jason, I hope we get to see the Fantastic Four, just for you, bud. I really hope we get to see a good Fantastic Four, because I know how much, because I know you liked the first ones, didn't you?
Oh yeah,
you enjoyed them. Yeah,
they absolutely grew on me, and again, the first one even more. But I like the Fantastic Four as characters. I mean, I think they've been largely. I don't think we've gotten a really great Fantastic Four movie. I think the first two were better than we wanted. Were better than we remember them often.
And they're also, they've aged well.
Yeah, they've aged well.
Surprised how well they've aged. Well.
Yeah.
The third one not so much, but the first two did. I think the first one ages remarkably well, all things considered. But again, it's like these characters. It's sort of again they're part of this larger thing, and it's again, the Fantastic Four I think is one of those properties that has to be handled just right, because they're not the Avengers. They are,
It's too close to like a Swiss Family Robinson situation. They are basically. I'm serious, dude. They're like a family.
No.
He's laughing at A&X.
At A&X,
these movies are trash. These two movies are better. That's good. That's funny, man. It's gonna be tough to do them, because it's a family. Right. I mean, these people, they're not really a family specifically, but they've all gone through this same experience together. And, they're stuck with each other, for lack of a better term, because of that's how it was in the comics. Right.
Not necessarily. No, it was, when you have Sue Storm and Johnny Storm, it was brother and sister.
Well, yeah. But,
and Grimm and Richards, a lot like me and Jason, we met each other one day, and we were too stubborn to get out of each other's lives, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So they do have that
every day.
Every damn day.
They do have that family dynamic, and so and again, first family of Marvel is how it's always referred to.
Mm-hmm.
So they just gotta be careful on how they play it. But if they do it right, I mean, if you're doing this right, Fantastic Four and Spider-Man should be your top two driven movies
for like
and most important stuff. Just general, in general.
Just general. What is upcoming right now? What do we have? What do we've got? What do they have in the pipeline?
Well, if we include Sony, Morbius is next in April.
Right.
May is Doctor Strange 2, which, let's be honest, we're all waiting for that to see how it's going to turn out.
All waiting to see how that's going to play out. Yep.
They just pushed back Wakanda 2. And I say Wakanda 2 because that is going to be the name, right? Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, they do keep changing the date on that, but they've also had so many different rewrites. How do you? That's a tough one, man. How are you going to that? It's Boseman was T'Challa.
Yeah, for sure. But I do agree with the new groundswell of people saying, like, you're going to have to, like, immediately after it was like, oh my God, you can't recast him, and rightfully so, because everything had just happened. On top of it being just a great story overall.
Yeah.
Sorry, Genesis. It was also in reference to the fact that he was just a good guy. Like, you didn't hear a lot of bad stuff coming out, or any bad stuff coming out about how he treated people or his actions or whatever. So it was very tied to the character. But I think the new groundswell of recast the character, recast the actor. You do it with Bond, you do it with Batman, you do it with everybody else. He's gonna have to be recast eventually.
Well, but I think they're going to. I really absolutely think that they're trying to write it to the way where it's going to do his character still justice, so that they're not going to forget him. You know what I mean? Because honestly, that's a disservice. If they're going to do it, if they're going to do it that way, and they're going to say it's like Bond, it's like anybody, we recast it against everything they've been doing and established all the way up until this point. I mean, you're gonna just, I know we shit on a lot of things, but we're gonna shit on however many years of movie franchise history precedent set to this point. So they can't just recast him. They have to figure out. They have to figure out a way to write a new character in that suit.
I don't think
they've recast character. They've recast people before. I mean, but
it's so minor. I mean, they recast the Hulk because, I mean, nobody really paid attention to the first two anyways. Actually, the second one was better than the first one.
Yeah.
Second one was good. So they recast they recast the Hulk, and they recast Roddy. They recast Rhodes. But outside of those characters, as far as like main characters, who did they cast?
Yep. Right there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
there.
I know you can pull them from the multiverse. That's true, and maybe that's an easy way out. But I don't think that they want to do that, given all the love that Chadwick Boseman as the actor, as himself, garnered from, like you just said, Ray, from being who he was. I think they want to figure out a way to do it without having to feel like just recasting a Bond thing.
I am okay with them taking their time recasting. Like, let me set that straight, right? Like, take your time, do it right, get everything out. But he's got to be recast. Black Panther is too important of a character.
I agree.
Not to have that recast happen sooner rather than later. That's all I'm saying.
But when you say, we're probably splitting hairs here with the terminology, because when you say recast, I just mean get a new Black Panther.
I think it's got to be T'Challa. Not right now. I think it has to be T'Challa.
I agree with him.
That's who is Black Panther. That's who's Black Panther. And so when you sit there and you say, like, can someone else wear the uniform? Of course. But T'Challa is so tied to Black Panther from the beginning. And we're going back to the books. I think you've just got to find the right person to play a new T'Challa going forward. I don't think you have to do it phase 4. You don't even have to do it phase 5. But you're going to have to get there eventually. And I almost don't want them to have T'Challa. I don't want that character written out of Black Panther 2. Just give me something else. Or if you're going to sit there and say that T'Challa has passed, then just like Genesis over at ANX said, then he's got to be a multiverse T'Challa that you pull in or something. But T'Challa as a character, he's got to be intertwined with Black Panther. I think that's a must have.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I'll be very. Oh, man, that's got to be hard.
Gonna be hard.
It's got to be hard. That's got to be super hard. Yeah.
We also get Thor, Love and Thunder.
Thor, Love and Thunder. That's right. So yeah, I've got it. What we got? Morbius, like I said, Doctor Strange, Thor, Love and Thunder, and then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, another animated one, right?
Yeah, part
two, basically.
Part two, part one.
Part two, part one.
Part two, part one.
That's great.
Thank you,
forever.
Sony. Yeah.
So, and then the Marvels,
which I think has also been pushed. Actually,
2023.
They pushed that one back too.
Yeah,
they pushed it.
So, but you still have stuff.
So what's the Marvels? I mean, and then what we got? Quantumania.
That's 2023.
Yeah, well. Ant-Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's
that's
the Marvels
the series.
The series, okay. What's the Marvels supposed to be about?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Captain Marvel. Then you have from Wanda. I was almost going to say Remy, not Gambit. But what's her name? Yeah.
She was actually Captain Marvel, but then they renamed her Photon.
Yeah. And then of course you have Marvel as far as the Miss Marvel.
You have Miss Marvel. Yeah.
Who they're almost completely rewriting that. Like that went from that's coming out before Moon Knight to Moon Knight will premiere in March. What about Miss Marvel? We'll get back to you. They're going through a lot of rewrites on that from what everyone's saying. But
I do like how they've reimagined her powers though, because that I'm sorry.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I don't think you can do a Mr. Fantastic stretching ability and introduce this person first and not introduce Mr. Fantastic first with that same ability. I think that's a really dangerous game to play. So I like the fact that they had changed it, but apparently not enough people like that because who knows what'll happen next. But and it's not that DC doesn't have stuff coming out this year. I mean, they do have the Flash here coming up pretty soon, or they got Batman first, the Batman.
Yeah.
You'll have Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2, then we got the Flash, and we've got
Black Adam.
Black Adam, thank you.
Oh, now that one I still like, man. I'm really interested in that one. I really want to. I hope that one's going to be good. I hope it's going to be good and dark as it should be. Because
the opening scene is him dissolving a dude with his powers. So
I know. I hope again. DC's been doing a good job of. Their tone is much darker than Marvel's is. Marvel's starting to lean into the comedy a bit more. I think,
which I'm okay with.
Nothing wrong with it, dude. Just saying, like Marvel is leaning into that comedy a bit more. But I like I do want to see a balance of some darker themes in a movie that deserves it. So I hope that one gets it. And I hope they get it right. Like I was even surprised at how dark Shazam was. Because Shazam was very serious and very dark. I mean, it had those dark, scary elements to it.
Forget that. Just the dramatic part of a mother telling the son, I didn't want you.
Oh yeah.
And
that was
just that part right there. I was like, doggone, like what? Yeah. Okay, like cool. Let me pick up the pieces there.
Yeah, exactly. So that whole it's mature enough to be a serious movie without being too campy or stupid or being comedy driven, or it doesn't have to rely on punch up to make it a good movie. It's not forced, it feels natural. That's
speaking of force, let's talk Book of Boba Fett.
Well, no, hold on. I was going to say, speaking of leaning onto comedy, Peacemaker.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't think we ever talked about the subject you started out with, Ray, which was the Bat.
Well, we did. We just finished it during that time of you.
Well, we didn't talk about any of the Batman, and I heard everything you guys were talking about, even though I wasn't on camera. My camera died and it killed my mic, but I could still see the feed. So.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, I just had to I had to plug the camera into a different USB port, and it's all good.
I'll tell you what. 2 minutes. The Batman. Go.
2 minutes. I have nothing. You started this. I have nothing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Jason, what do you want to lean into? You want to go Book of Boba, or you want to go?
I want to do Peacemaker because I think that's going to be a shorter conversation. I'd like to end on Boba Fett because I think we're going to have a longer conversation about that.
Okay. Let me start by saying I did not know John Cena could actually emote. and act.
Yeah.
And episode 4, and let me stress this, spoilers. Episode 4, where he's dealing with the fallout and just remembering his own personal history and seeing what happened with him growing up with his father, with his brother, and just John Cena's breakdown and just ultimate cry fest that he has was really good and hard to watch. Because you realized, we always kind of figured they would get to this point where it was, going through it, right? And he just 100% just, I didn't know he could act, right? Like, it's not a slam on John Cena. It's just that when you get someone of that caliber, Dwayne Johnson went through the same thing. And I think he still doesn't really, I saw more acting in John Cena on episode 4 than I think I've ever seen with Dwayne Johnson. And since he's been acting, that's not a slam on Dwayne Johnson. I love all of his movies for the most part, but like John Cena had literally levels to his character. And now I went from, oh my God, I hate this character because, he killed Rick Flag, to, oh my God, this was an awesome character. And it's something that was really done well. So
I do think Peacemaker leans into. All right. Well, Sean disagrees with you.
Fine,
entirely.
Sean. We're done with you.
Yeah. I love the comments.
I know.
So I do think two things. I do think two things are happening though. Here is that he has grown as an actor, because, I mean, that's just. I think that is absolutely. I agree with you. He has grown as an actor. However, I also think Peacemaker is a perfect role for him, right? Because I think they're leaning into John Cena as a person. So I think this is a much more natural flow for him, and I think he is a better comedic actor than like drama actor. But the ability, they give him just enough drama that he can pull it off. So I think the comedies have really helped him develop his skills. So to your point, yeah, exactly.
So Sean, just real quick, as we're continuing to do this, just lost internet.
Yeah.
Man, okay. Keep going, Jason.
Yeah. So again, like I said, after I watched the first 3 episodes and I wasn't impressed overall. I think it just they sort of undermine the credibility of the show. But on your request, I did watch episode 4 and it did pick back up. So I'm gonna go ahead and see it through. I think they've balanced the campiness. I'm still not happy with how they were doing Vigilante. Like, again, I think they, particularly in episode 5, and again, not to spoil the scene, but I think they do lean a little too heavily on his intelligence, or too heavily on him being an idiot, where it's like, but we just saw him in episode 4 and he was actually very competent. It's like, so again, this is why I think Doom Patrol does the absurdity just a little bit better. But it's not enough to throw me out. I was able to be invested back in the show. I think the show is actually pretty decent. So I mean, it's a little inconsistent on the
Sean Walker is John
Cena.
John
Cena.
Genesis, you need to check your phone, bud. But yeah, it's I don't really know how to. I like this show infinitely more than I should, but I will say, there's Sean. I do like the show much better than I thought I would, and now it's definitely, I look forward to it. I want to watch this when it hits. Is what I found myself doing, and I am glad that they're adding some story depth to it, because I didn't think that was going to be possible. I really didn't.
Yeah.
Like I didn't.
Oh, I agree.
Like everyone was saying, even after the first trailer, I love the trailer. I thought it was hysterical, and I'm like, how much longevity are you going to get with this character? Like, it's got to only be so much. And now I find myself absolutely wanting to see a season 2, depending on how the season ends. So, Sean,
yes.
Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you now.
Okay, cool.
So, was it the camera? Did the camera just finally kill, or is it the internet in total? Or
no, full internet. I'm on my phone now.
Oh, there you go, man.
I was about to say,
screw it, dude. I'll soldier on. I will soldier on. So
that's that new phone smell, is what I found.
That is that new phone smell. Yep. I'm just really surprised that for whatever reason it's not using my microphone on my earbuds, because could have sworn that's what I put it in for, but I don't know. It's not working. So,
all right.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'll tell you what, we're busy back here trying to get get backups, and now Genesis is probably going to hate me. But oh, what are you going to do? I'm glad you were able to join back on. I forgot you had this brand new supercomputer in your pocket now. So good stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. It is. It's working out. So.
All right. So Genesis, stand by, still stand by, because we never know. Because Gnome King will probably be next. But yeah. So Sean, what are you thinking about Peacemaker as a show? Sean?
I mean, it's funny. It's good. I was really surprised at like you said, the latest episode. I like where they're going with the because we already said spoilers earlier. I like where they're going with the butterflies. I'm interested in it. I love the fact that you've kind of got these aliens that showed up on planet Earth and decided to start conquering afterwards. You know what I mean? I think that's good. But I don't know. It's fun, man. I'm starting to watch the intro, like I think you recommended. Because didn't you tell me that you have to watch the intro now because it's going to slightly change a little bit? Like
it changes, and I've been seeing it. It changes ever so slightly over each show, and you are starting to see how it's changing. And it's just an interesting take. Like, why leave it to James Gunn to do something as subtle as mess with the intros every time? That you have the ability to skip right off the bat.
Right?
So
exactly. Well. And the thing that surprised me, someone else noticed this. I saw it in an article, and I went back. I'm like, that can't be right. And I rewatched the intro. I'm like, holy crap, they're right. The dance is based off of Space Invaders.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and watch it, that's what they're doing. And you're like, they literally tell you the entire plot of the show in the dance.
Yep.
Right there.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the game of Space Invaders? Bugs.
That is a very good point. That's a very good point.
Which, by the way, episode 5. That's the last one, right? Episode 5.
Yeah.
Oh, how the butterflies enter a person. That was unsettling, and probably one of the creepiest scenes was that police station scene where she walks in with the legion of butterflies, and I just thought to myself, I don't really want to see this, and just
Dude, it's absolutely terrifying. Yeah, they made these very beautiful praying mantis butterflies. They're beautiful, and they made them utterly terrifying.
Yep. Yeah. So
particularly like the male cop, like the partner of the detective. The other, he's been in other stuff. I can't remember his name. Like him running from the swarm, and then we get the scene where the one that invades him goes around. And we see the wing, and it's a beauty. Like they're showing how beautiful these things are, and then just you compare with what they do to enter the body. You're like, again, this is very much a James Gunn production. He knows how to sell that.
Yeah, well,
that's for juxtaposition and irony.
Oh my God, the head of their little group, where they're talking to him, and it's one of the butterflies, but with a conscience.
Yeah,
and he is like, every day I hate waking up looking in the mirror, or I hate waking up and feeling his thoughts, all the time. Sean?
No, did that on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Got the internet back up. Better
sound
through these than it is through that. So
fair enough.
All right.
But yeah, just seeing that transpire, and seeing that they're, they very much Earth is it's very much a little bit of a Men in Black ripoff where Earth is a Casablanca, right?
Yeah.
It is.
They're looking for most of them are looking for peace and harmony, and just being safe from the destruction of their home world. But the other ones are like, nah, let's take this thing over. We're okay with that. So it's pretty cool in that aspect.
Okay, hold on. Second. Actually, outside of the whole, the creepiest scene in the entire series has been the police station. But the ending of the walkout, Cena is back. That walkout when they're all trying to remember because the line.
Oh, when they're all trying to smile.
Yeah,
creepy.
That is
the creepy smile thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I thought that was a genius scene, and again,
it was a callback. Like there's a reason. Like they put that in there for where they're like, smiling is hard. It's different with every face, and so they're all trying to learn how to smile at the same time in the faces, in the bodies that they're in. You're like, that's just, I mean, and their faces are covered in blood. It is literally one of the scariest things I've seen on television in a long time.
I literally forgot that Gunn was horror first as far as filmmaking until those scenes, and I was like, oh yeah, he can do that. I'm like, okay, cool. And that episode was directed by Gunn. So.
Yeah. It was.
It does show. Yeah, it absolutely.
It was a really good episode. It was a really good episode. Yeah, that was it was almost traumatizing watching that butterfly crawling into the police officer's mouth. When that happened, I just went. I went, holy shit! And my wife was like, "What?" And I said, "Did you not just see what I was? Did you not just watch what I was watching?" She goes, well, you said it so late. I was like, I was in shock.
Yeah.
Because it was, and you don't expect it. Like, that's the other thing.
You think, oh, she's going to catch it, or it's not really going to happen, or the other police officer's going to get her, or something's going to happen. And then you're like, okay, no, she's freaking dead. Like,
well, that was the thing, too, is like when you're watching it, it's not like the show hasn't had its gross moments.
That's true.
But it hasn't had its
truly disturbing
moments, right? And that was watching. I was like, ugh, like that's nuts.
Well, it's the right amount of blood, because I think a lot of shows would have just not had blood, or had it be a little bit, or
had it way too much,
or had way too much. Like, this was a realistic amount of blood, and I think that's the thing that freaked me out the most, was it wasn't over the top, but it was a lot, and it's like just the fact that it's on the face, and just you're like. And she never bothers to wipe it off.
She doesn't clean it up. That's the worst.
I love that.
No, I love that Jason is pointing out it's the Goldilocks amount of blood. Like, it's perfect because it really was. And you're right, dude. That's what sells that. And then when she gets up all dead-eyed and just is like looking around, and she's got that giant streak, which is like a half smile because it rolled down the side here, but then made the big swoop. And you're just like, that's freaking weird. You know?
I'm fine, human.
I'm fine, human. Yeah.
Human? Yeah, exactly.
Good God.
And the diary. I liked how they were like, nope, diary's out of play. Nope, back in play.
Yeah.
Back in play. Uh-huh.
And it's like
very well done.
Yeah, again, it's not the greatest thing ever put on television, but I will admit episodes 4 and 5 have really upped their game.
Well,
and it's at least worth watching.
And the sadness when gets when betraying their own team, and then Peacemaker realizing like, this is why I don't trust anyone. This is why I don't care. But moments earlier having just said, I don't want to kill people anymore. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be. Basically, what he's trying to say is, I don't want to be my father. And him struggling with that internally. Again, John Cena did a fantastic job on playing the piano. Who knew that was John Cena?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, kudos on that. On a version of even Home Sweet Home that I absolutely fell in love with.
My wife mentioned that. She goes, I'm really impressed that he is sitting there doing that. She's like, that he can use those big freaking veiny meaty arms and fingers of his to play that so delicately. Look, because they are like they're just these huge. It's two big giant slabs of dried salami attached to either part of his shoulder. They're huge.
Well, and to the point though, it's like, this is not anything that's been hinted at in the entire show. He just sits down and again, it's Home Sweet Home. He's remembering him actually killing his brother. And by the way, kudos to the T2 actor. I can never remember his name. Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick.
Yeah, I in my head I had Robert Pattinson. I'm like, no, that's the
Batman.
goth Batman.
Yeah,
wrong robot.
Yeah, wrong robot.
Oh,
so
ouch, dude. Come on,
dude, keep going, man.
I know.
Anyway,
come on.
There for a bit.
Sparkly Batman. Anyway, no. It's just he's rocking that super badass mullet of his. Anyway, but it's like the poignancy of that scene.
Yeah.
I just remember her telling jokes. I'm running out of white guys. And she goes, I'm running out of white guys. And she looks at her partner and she's making fun of him. And I mean, the lines in this are good. And I'm sorry to take away from that. But yeah, go ahead. Kudos to Robert Patrick. You were saying, sorry.
Yeah, for his badass mullet. But it's it's like we knew his brother died, and then we find out he's the one who killed him, and then we find out.
Well, we don't necessarily. How. But we don't necessarily know that either. It just said you killed him, but we don't. I still think that they're unfolding.
There's something that's untold yet. I agree. I think we're going to see the whole thing.
Yeah. So that was just a precursor to make us believe. Exactly. Oh shit, maybe killed him.
It is very hard to watch someone again. Parent thing, and I really think a human being thing. Forget the parent thing, just a human being thing. Of seeing that scene with him get picked up from the jail, and he's like, and then I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago. He's like, what's that? He's like, kill my son.
I'm going to kill my son.
And it's like, dude, like you're nuts.
Yeah.
Well, and again, they lean pretty heavily into him being insane. In the scene where he's getting into the armor and everyone's putting on their hoods, it's just. The hooker he was with, like all of it is like it's all
because looking at her, it's one could argue it's like, oh, the nudity, blah blah blah, but to me in that scene, that nudity of the prostitute he was with was very poignant because it explained who he was, down to the fact that he couldn't even be with a female who didn't have his same beliefs. Completely. And so it was like it was a very powerful moment during that little montage of a song. Which, what was it, Beautiful Monster or something like that, which was excellently
played. It's like
very much
because while it's happening while the police station is
is under attack.
They're saying, because again they're juxtaposing those two things because for them it's the same thing. They're both monsters.
And I was gonna say it works for both the cop and the thing. Sean, you're frozen again, bud. Just letting you know, you're like Drax right now. You can't see me, man. I'm not there. Not here, Dave. But it was very
well. It's really interesting because it does play off the idea that here we have these creatures crawling inside and making monsters out of humans, and then over here it's the ideology that's making them into monsters.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's just, again, they're doing a great job of that. Again, particularly episode 5. Again, episode 4 or 5, I will admit, absolutely kicked it into high gear.
Yeah.
So
I'm anxious to see how this. We've only got 2 episodes left, and I'm already thinking like, oh man, I hope it's a lot. And we've seen that. Tag me in, Coach.
Sorry, Genesis.
I've seen that. That they don't mind being a hour episode, so I'm curious to see how long these last 2 episodes are going to be, because this is the one thing that I'll say that I'm not terribly satisfied with on the Disney TV shows, is they do try to keep them under 30 minutes as much as they can. And James Gunn here, he doesn't care. If the story that they're getting ready to tell for that chapter is they feel needs to be longer, it's going to be longer. So
Disney is making making that hard and fast. Has to be your 30-minute. It's a classic episode. We're sticking to that format. But you're right. And I wonder, it's got to be a Disney. It's got to be a Disney thing.
Let's segue.
But is it Disney, or is it the difference, or maybe it's not Disney? Maybe it's just that like HBO says, we don't care because we're HBO and you can do whatever you want. Like. Maybe that's the difference.
And maybe that's just kind of the mindset that they're in. But I have to imagine that's a broader concept for Disney as a whole, because you see it both with the Marvel shows and the Star Wars shows. So I don't think it's like a creator choice. I think this is probably more like a mandate, like, hey, you cannot top this much. But
they're probably just trying to create a consistent format and just stick with it. And it's I think you're right. I do think it shows, which does allow us to transfer over to Book of Boba Fett. But since we are almost to the hour, here's my question: do we want to go along and do the Book of Boba Fett, or do we want to wait until after? And
we're going to go along because I'm
fine with that.
I want to talk Boba Fett. These last, and again, spoilers. We're going to spoil the heck out of this. These last 2 episodes of Boba Fett have been the best episodes of the entire series.
That's because they're not.
That's because they're not Boba Fett. That's the problem with this series. Boba Fett A combined total of both episodes, 5 minutes. Maybe an argument could be made for 7 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's a problem when your main character is not part of the best episodes other than a quick, yes, we're ready. What was that? What is that? This show officially transitioned into The Mandalorian season 2.5 with a quick 3-episode break for the Mandalorian or for Boba Fett. That's it.
Yeah.
Because this
or
is
setting
now
up the Luke Skywalker Ahsoka show.
100% felt like a backdoor into. And do not get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Beautifully done. Beautifully done with, once again, Luke. Once again, Boba, the Mandalorian. Once again, Ahsoka. Once again, Grogu. Beautifully done, and I did not miss the fact that this was a Boba Fett show. Not even a little bit.
Not me. I second that. I mean, the moment we started actually getting into the Mandalorian piece of this, I was way more interested. Mandalorian is a better show than Boba Fett is, hands down. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Boba Fett sucked before it became the Mandalorian. I mean, yeah, Genesis. I don't think you're wrong about that. I think there's a level to that. Like sucked, I think might be a little heavy-handed, but it definitely was nowhere near as good as it is now with Din involved, with the Mandalorian involved. And it's like, I really think this all goes back to the same thing. Like we're chasing, as fans of the original series, we're chasing this childhood emotion.
Yeah.
It's a drug. You're trying to get that hit of what you liked and experienced and the nostalgia that you get. So we're chasing that, and nothing's going to be as good as that. But when you get something that exists in the universe that you enjoy, like The Mandalorian, right? And it's so fresh and it's so new, and you can form that new bond with it. I really think that's why it's so much better than what we're going back to, because it's just Boba Fett's not going to be as good.
Well, but the problem is, you should not, if you're going to do a Boba Fett show, it should have been a Boba Fett show.
Should have been a bad guy show.
Yeah, Mandalorian should have let him appear.
Yeah,
10 minutes tops.
Yeah, he's a side character, because he's got his own shit.
Yeah,
he's got his own shiny Mandalorian crap to do.
Yeah, you play Mando exactly like you played Boba Fett in the Mandalorian season 2. He's there, bits and pieces. You're interested on what's going on, and you had a perfect setup for Mando season 3. Yeah. Right? Just do it exactly how you did Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But now you've created, and do not get me wrong, was 100% satisfied with every character that showed up, whether it was from the Clone Wars, whether it was from Rebels, whether it was from the original trilogy, whatever. I was satisfied 100%. I love the fact that Mando is missing his son. For all intents and purposes, he's missing his son.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it's Lone Wolf and Cub, man. He's missing the child he's caring after. So
100%, and it was beautiful. Had no place in the Book of Boba Fett. Zero.
Yeah.
Zero place.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, Kim.
And that was my problem. I was like, man, this I found myself just like glued to the screen because I'm like, man, this is beautiful. And then it's like, Book of Boba Fett, chapter blah blah blah. Oh yeah, we're in a Boba Fett movie. No, this has nothing to do with Mandalorian. Like, fuck, got it.
Yeah. So we were Ray and I were actually talking about this off screen yesterday. This is, I think, the problem here. I do want to talk about the beginning of. I want to talk about the armor scene, but I want to
stick to the.
I know I will, but that's what I'm saying. Is like I do want to address why I think we have a problem with the show. First of all, the show isn't as bad as the hate it's getting, but I will say this: The Mandalorian worked because it was a quest show, right? It was Lone Wolf and Cub. It was a Western, right? That's true. It's like, so that's why The Mandalorian worked. The problem with the Book of Boba Fett is it's Dances with Wolves and The Sopranos, but it's the worst elements of both. And
I don't. When we pulled that reference this last time, I will tell you right now, I don't think it's the worst product of what Dances with Wolves was. I think it was a good thing. It's just that's not what it was supposed to be.
No, that was the best part of Dances with Wolves, was when he was with the Native Americans, and that was the best part. That's the learning part of him becoming a bigger person,
and that's
just fighting in this civil war.
Exactly.
But no, the thing is, like, it's just it's not as interesting, and it could be more interesting if they leaned more heavily into the fact that, you know, he's a bounty hunter and he has no cares. I mean, he's in it for himself. If they had just leaned toward, they did a much better job with Mandalorian as the bounty hunter, even though he was only playing the role of a bounty hunter to get more Beskar for,
because he had a higher ideal.
Mandalorians. He had a higher ideal, and it's this is something that goes back to a friend of mine when we were doing the like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Tabletop role playing, right? Back when we were doing that, we were running this one campaign. I wanted to be a mercenary. I was like, well, this will solve all my issues. If I'm a mercenary, I can just be whatever. And he said, man, if you're going to try to be a mercenary, it's going to be real difficult. And I was like, why? Because I could just do whatever. I'm doing it for money. He goes, yeah, but that's not an honorable cause. And you have no morals, and you have no this, and you have no that. I ended up playing a character that was completely not a mercenary, because for all the reasons he explained. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Even though I'm going to be a mercenary because it's easy to fit me into the story, I wasn't a mercenary. I was a paladin or something else to that nature, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here. Boba Fett is not being a mercenary. The closest we got to an actual, what I think this was supposed to be, is when straight out of freaking oddly enough, another Kevin Costner film, The Untouchables, when they walk the bomb into the thing and they blow up Flashdance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when that happened, I was like, here we go. Like, this is gonna be good, you know. And if they would lean into that, it'll get better.
Well, and that's hold on, Ray. That's again to explain my point when you said that they had, like, the best parts is the Dances with Wolves scene. I don't disagree, but what I mean is they are omitting the best elements of both shows, right? When I said The Sopranos and Dances with Wolves, because with Dances with Wolves, it was about a man's redemption. So when we see him, him with when we see him with the tribe, they're not juxtaposing that with his life as a bounty hunter. Same, and it's like with The Sopranos. The reason The Sopranos work is because we like to watch bad people do bad things.
Yes.
Right. And the problem is, it's like you have a character you're trying to redeem, and then you're trying to put him.
Blood. That's why True Blood was good. That's why Game of Thrones was good. You're watching these horrible people do these horrible things, and if this,
the problem is you're trying to redeem him, which is fine. Either redeem him or make him a criminal. Do one or the other. And the problem is they're trying to do. They're like, well, I want him to be It's like, wouldn't it be cool if he ran Jabba Fett's empire? Yeah, that would be. The Boba Fett we got would have been
Jabba Fett's empire.
Jabba Fett. Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba Fett. Gotcha.
Yeah, Jabba Fett. I like that.
Pizza the Hutt. Gotcha.
Pizza the Hutt
ate himself to death.
Exactly. It's like that would have been.
Scared me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Love pizza and seeing it in Jabba form.
Yeah.
Didn't sit right for a while.
Through the way it melted, but it's like that would have been cool. Or if you want to redeem Boba Fett, that would have been cool. The problem is they're trying to do both. They're trying to do both, and it doesn't really work. Also, the Power Rangers I thought was a little wonky.
Yeah,
but I did like the bomb.
I mean, my thing was to your point, they should the end scene to show that they were coming into Boba Fett taking over Jabba's empire should have been the very last scene in this series. Yes, him walking up and doing that to Flotina, and just that's how this series should have ended. Because
dude, how cool would that have been?
Your thing is this, and I agree with it. You do the Dances with Wolves storyline, and you do go. You instead of your flashbacks being with them, your flashback should have been with the original trilogy timeline on how he got to be, someone that Vader would call, like when Vader was like, I don't want to get my hands dirty, which is a really big comment about who Boba Fett is. Vader's thinking, no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to go call someone else I know that can take care of this. Because even though I killed younglings, this is the guy you don't mess with. And you should have had it going with that and him trying to find his inner peace from doing all of that stuff in the original trilogy and, living, how he is after coming out of the pit. And that's not what we got. The other thing it should have been is if you're going to do that, if that is your opening scene is him taking over Jabba's empire, then it should have just been exactly what we're talking about. It should have been The Sopranos. He still doesn't care. Like, he's not sitting there going, I need this person. I'm trying to give them a better life because I want them to be better and I want them to have a purpose. It should have been like, nah, you're pretty expendable to me. You're here because I can pay you. If you die, oh well, I'll go find another you. And that's not what we're getting. And so when we get these last two episodes, it is such a relief of what we've been seeing, I feel, that the impact, again, I completely forgot this was a Boba show. Like, I'm like, oh my God. I didn't miss it. I didn't miss it at all.
I didn't miss it at all. I looked at my wife and I was like, oh, cool, more Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
I will say I did not like, I'm going to catch the hate for it. I was not a big fan of the Skywalker Grogu scenes.
I don't know.
But
I thought we spent too much time with it. Hate for that.
I'm gonna guess it's because you don't like the way the CG played.
No, the CG was fine. Honestly, it's like,
dude,
it just felt out of place.
No, they did a great job with the CG.
I thought the CG was much better.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think it was out of place. I think episodes 4 or 5 and 6. Are we on 5 and 6 or 4 and 5?
I don't even
5
know
and
anymore.
6, whatever. I think those episodes just didn't belong in the series, in the show. That's why it feels out of place. I mean, I don't think, like, when you take yourself out and just look at it for those episodes on what they were, that was beautifully done. I just want to see that in a Luke Skywalker show, not in a Boba Fett show, not in a Mandalorian show. You know, in the Mandalorian season 3, that would have been an excellent episode for just one episode, and then you go back into the Mandalorian. No place here in Boba Fett. Zero.
No, I agree. My thing is, I just think we spent too much time there. I think it could have been, I think if they'd cut it shorter, it would have been fine. I didn't need to see Grogu and Luke doing, David Carradine, stuff from what was the show? Kung Fu. I didn't need to see all the the David Carradine Kung Fu stuff. They could have, if they shortened it, it would have been fine. It just, like I said, the best parts were him and R2. R2 is the most ride or die droid in the whole freaking
show. Yeah. I know. I've seen that meme on Facebook too. Yeah, he was.
I like that. Yeah,
he is.
Oh yeah,
he is.
No, he is. But it's like between Mando and Ahsoka was great, and again, Luke and Grogu were fine. I wanted it shorter to get to the rest of the plot. It just felt a little out of place. But I get to your point. It just felt out of place because it's supposed to be the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah,
I do have a problem with that. I had a huge problem with the fact that I wanted to see more about this bounty hunter and what he was doing, this mercenary. It killed me. It felt like backdoor pilots to the other spinoffs that we haven't heard about, but they want to gauge interest.
Which is exactly what
Kim just said.
It's like, these are great pilots. Can we, or a great preview for season 3? Can we get back to Boba Fett? Now, again, done so well that I didn't care that Boba Fett wasn't in there.
I mean,
I just realized it after.
What if, Filoni and what's his name? Favreau. What if Filoni and Favreau had to put this episode in there, these quote unquote pilots episodes in here, to gauge, to show to Disney that there is gauged and marketed interest in seeing these shows in the future? What if that's part of the reason they have to do this? Because maybe Disney is like, well, we like what you're thinking about, but we don't really know if we're sold on it yet. So if they write this into the show and it pans out where they get a lot of interest in this, creates this type of shit that we're doing now, and people are all talking about it, then Disney goes, okay, all right, there's a future in this. Let's heavily invest.
I agree.
I don't think you should do it at the expense of another show. That's all I'm saying.
But what if you're doing it at the expense of a show that doesn't really matter that much? I honestly, if there's one season of Boba Fett and it ends, I'm fine. Yeah. So far, I'm not that impressed. No harm, no foul. No. If Mandalorian ends tomorrow, I'm writing a strongly worded letter to somebody, because that's going to piss me off.
Yeah.
Well, and he'll do it with ink and actual paper. That's how.
I'll do it with ink and paper. I'll write that shit down.
We do know season 3 is coming. Like I literally heard it from. I can't believe I get to say the following comment. Literally got to hear it from Carl Weathers' mouth that they were starting season 3. So I was like, I'm in, man. I'm in.
Oh, were you at the Comic-Con when he was
at the Comic-Con? And he was like, yeah, I'm flying out next week. He goes, we start production on season 3.
That's awesome, dude.
So cool hearing that. But again, I just don't. I think you could have done the Grogu Luke scene would have been much better suited in the first 2 episodes of Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. No, but what Genesis is saying though, I would have liked to have seen, like, I think she would be more interesting as a character in a series. Like, again, can you imagine how interesting her character would be if Boba Fett was being Boba Fett?
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
That would be phenomenal. She would be. I mean, she's already badass. Her entire character is just there to poke the bear. That's all she does. You know?
Don't you feel that she's more intimidating at this point than Boba Fett?
Absolutely.
Oh, she is.
So she's always been more intimidating than him.
Yeah. Well, and like she's my favorite part of the whole series. I love the fact that she's
a fish tank.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so hold on. So the fish tank thing, though, I think works. Like, yeah, I think the back to tank thing, I think that's one of my favorite aspects of the whole thing. Again, the things that they aren't leaning into is the thing that they should have leaned into in this series. I think that's the problem is they lack the proper direction. Like the idea that he becomes a crime boss would have been a great story, and that he has to spend all this time in the back to tank because he is healing from the just years of abuse, right?
What if we're here talking about just that, Jason? What if we're sitting here going, man, how good would it be if they, I mean, obviously we are. What if we're doing that and somewhere else, Filoni or whatever, or Favreau is watching this and they're like, we tried, Disney wouldn't fucking let us. Like, what if that's we're over here bitching about it, and
they're like, we wanted to do it. Yeah,
this is what. If
they're sitting there thinking to themselves, wait, just wait.
Could be
because hey, look, when we first thought Mando, we're like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll watch it. Like it's set kind of right at the end. Like let's do that. So, maybe we do get these last 2 episodes, and maybe to Sean's point, maybe this last episode is the only really backdoor pilot, but this episode with the episode right before with just Mando was important to the overall storyline. And Jason made the comment when we were talking about Mando going back and everything else about how he's got the Darksaber. Is he the one to fulfill the Mandalorian prophecy, right? Which already makes me cringe whenever I hear a show going, oh, let's start talking about prophecies. Stop, knock it off. Stop using that trope.
But seriously, though, that was the whole reason for, like, I mean, I'm glad they started that because that was, again, that touched a good nostalgia nerve for me going back to Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, they're bringing a freaking video game and the idea of that, like, into this universe. Yeah. And also the fact that he cuts himself with the Darksaber.
I love
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like, I cut myself. It's like, that would happen at some point. I'm surprised more people haven't done it in these episodes.
Yeah. Well, because usually it's a Force user who's or the Jedi or Sith who's using a lightsaber.
That's true. So they're more trained.
Yeah.
Well,
they're trained to do it. They have superpowers.
They even say that though, that it takes someone who is knowledgeable in the Force to wield that. They talk about how that is part of the thing. So for me, Jason's whole thing was, who do you think is the one prophesied?
Okay, so I think the entire armor scene is about Boba Fett. I think they're setting this up because to Ray's point, they do mention the Force, but they also talk about you're not supposed to fight the Darksaber. They talk about the curse of the Darksaber. When she opens up her armor chest, right, to reveal her tools. When she says it only exists in legends, meaning the mythosaur, for those who aren't aware, that skull that we see the Mandalorians use, and that's on yeah, exactly. And
but she's on the same thing I'm going to talk about in a second.
Yeah, Boba Fett, right? That's on Boba Fett's armor. That is a mythosaur skull. They were these massive animals that the original Mandalorians used to ride.
Yes.
When she says that, and she says it only exists in legends, there's 2 things. One, the skull is the exact same skull that's on Boba Fett, and it's red. And she says it only exists in legends. Dave Filoni has done this in the past with like Rebels and a few other shows. When they mention the word legends, they are pointing to the old canon from the comics and the books and stuff that Disney said is no longer canon. He's done this in the past. So in the past stuff, what has happened is Jango Fett was supposed to actually have the dark saber. He actually won it from Vizsla in the past, but then Vizsla ended up with the saber, and of course Mandalore is destroyed. That's why she's talking about how it's a curse to anyone who wields it improperly. And Jango, again, Boba Fett being a direct clone of Jango Fett would be the rightful heir of the dark saber, because it should have gone to Jango Fett to begin with. So I think what they're setting up is the idea that Boba Fett, who's trying to become a leader of men, is going to become he is the rising mythosaur. I think is what they're going to. I think that's what they were pointing at. That's what they're hinting at. I think Ray, though, does have an excellent idea that it could be. I will let him take it from here.
I think we're possibly looking at Grogu being either having a really big hand in helping to train Mando in the ways of the Force, or he is what they're talking about, because he's, imagine a Yoda-like creature being able to take on a Mandalorian-like spot. It would just be completely unheard of. He would be able to wield, although the sword would be too big for him right now, but in the long run, maybe it is. I mean, we all know Star Wars has a love of history of talking about the child. They just never specify which child. So it's a possibility for Mando.
That he becomes both the Mandalorian, again, like the guy who forges the darksaber, he becomes both a Mandalorian and a Jedi.
Yeah, and I think I think that's the thing is, but I still feel it's going to end up being Mando more than Boba Fett, just because as we're seeing right now, as much respect as I've got for who's this, Tamora Morrison, I think is the actor's name. I can't see him carrying a show at this point. Everything that we've seen to date has been him almost acting as a secondary character in his very own show. That's I don't know if you rest your dollar signs on him as a lead character, to which they're building up for. I see this being like a season 3 journey of Mando kind of learning the Force and starting to realize on his way to redeem himself as a Mandalorian for taking off his helmet, he realizes I'm above that, and he finds that middle ground between the ways of the old, the ways of the new with Bo-Katan, and then the ways of the Force with Grogu. And I think that's your season 3 and season 4 storylines.
And you keep Boba Fett as a background character.
I'm perfectly fine with Boba Fett.
I'm okay with that.
Advisory, as long as he's not the main part of it.
Yeah,
no, I completely agree.
He has secondary character vibes. He really does.
Yeah. Which, really, let's be fair, the fans, we as the fans made Boba who he is, not the story arcs. This was always a throwaway secondary character. The fact that we put so much effort into this one character who has a total of 10 minutes, maybe not even that much in the original trilogy. Okay.
It's funny because, I mean, you say throwaway character, and I mean, he was literally thrown away on screen.
Yeah.
They tossed him in the Sarlacc pit, and he's gone. I mean, later on. Well, I saw one of those dumb memes on Facebook with the guy who does this all the time, and it was all the force shields around it, and the guy points to the jetpack, and he's like, "Fly," because he could have just been like, then got up over everybody.
Also, 100% agree. That deputy. Oh, I love the fact that
that guy, man.
Is it Cade Bane, right? Cad Bane or whatever.
Cad Bane, yeah.
If you go back and watch it, one of the greatest things, he shoots Vance once in the shoulder. I don't think he's dead.
And then he just goes,
he unloads on that deputy.
Unloads on that guy.
I was like,
unloads.
Yeah, I would too.
Because
I would too.
Such a little,
oh my gosh,
just a bully, bully, like, and people with that type of mentality can, absolutely.
And I love the fact that he's even like when Mando shows up, he's like, hey, you might want to go inside. It's like, of all the people that you could tick off, last guy you want to tick off.
And I love he's
Mandalorian.
He's like he's still learning. He's still
learning. Which is basically him saying, sorry, didn't mean to do that. I'll teach him better.
Pretty much, yeah. We're working on him.
He'll get it.
We're training him. He's growing. But again, it goes back to the idea that again, that's a more Mandalorian scene than we've seen. It's not a Book of Boba Fett scene. That's the problem. All of the good stuff all the really good stuff is coming out of stuff we would have seen with the Mandalorian, and it's versus Boba Fett. And the problem is, they try to combine two things and that shouldn't have gone together.
Asshat deputies.
No. Pipsqueak, Kim.
Pipsqueak, hungry Pipsqueak.
I love that. I mean, Pipsqueak is, you don't hear that in normal conversation, and it is polite, even though it's non-polite, but it's a polite swear word. I love that, Pipsqueak. I haven't heard that in forever. That is such a good word. I'm gonna use that next week when I talk to somebody.
Great, I get to hear that twice next week.
No, screw you. You think awfully highly of yourself for someone your size, Ray.
Size matters not, Sean. Gents. You know what? That's the end of our critique on the Book of Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
Sign us out, Jason. I think we're good.
All right, we're done. Go spend money over at Jeremy's. Push the button, Ray.
Guys, see y'all in a couple of weeks, and for sure, be kind, be nice, and respect each other's opinions as always.
Yeah.